Did you notice there were not many technical presentations on this conference? Don't worry, guys, I got you covered. So hold my hands because I'm going deep. But before that, I want to ask a question. How many of you have never used Wasabi wallet? Put your hands up. All right, a couple of people. But more importantly, Adam Beck did not put his hands up. So that must mean he's a hardcore Wasabi wallet user. And by the way, I did not see Satoshi did it either, so just saying. Okay. So I'm going to talk about Wasabi wallet. And I'm going to talk about, Wasabi wallet is famous about coin joining and mixing and all this stuff, but when I started working on it, there were much larger problems to solve, which was the network level privacy. And this is how we solved it in a light wallet is completely invisible. So you might be using Wasabi, you don't know that you are getting these privacy features. First, I want to talk about Bitcoin transactions. Let's start with the basics. What is this thing there? Yes, it's a private key. From this, with some magic, you get a Bitcoin address. This is your Bitcoin address, and you want to get money to this Bitcoin address. Say 1 Bitcoin. And you want to spend that Bitcoin in a transaction, and you put this Bitcoin into a transaction as an input. This is how we depict Bitcoin transactions, as a rectangle. And now, you want to send 0.6 Bitcoin to someone, so that our transaction must have one output. But there is a problem with this. 1 Bitcoin in, 0.6 out. What happens with 0.4? That's the mining fee. Until I say that it's the change. Yes. So we have a Bitcoin transaction, 1 Bitcoin in, 0.6 out, 0.4 change back to us. So every transaction has Bitcoin addresses, and 2 of them are controlled by us. All right, this is going to be important later. But now we are talking about transaction broadcasting. So we have our transaction up there, and we have the Bitcoin network. How do we broadcast our transactions? We select a Bitcoin node, full node, and we broadcast it to it. Now this is not going to work because we did not sign the transaction. So we take our private key, sign the transaction, and broadcast it again. But we have a problem with this. What if the node that you are broadcasting to is spying on you? Then it's going to know your IP address. Now, at one point, Chainalysis was controlling 20% of Bitcoin full nodes, so maybe at that point you had 1 to 5 chance that they are going to spy on you. Now maybe you have 1 to 10, I don't know. This is not a terrible way from privacy point of view to broadcast, but we can do better. For example, how? We put it through another network, which is called the Tor network. It's an anonymization network, anonymity network, and broadcast our transactions through this anonymity network. And now we are happy. It's completely private, but there can be some more nitpicking, and we can improve on this more, because we are using the Tor network in a way that we are using Tor exit nodes. So we ask our exit nodes to broadcast our transactions. And if the exit nodes and the entrance nodes are controlled by the same party, then they can figure out our IP address, even if the node is not spying on you. I don't think it matters, but who knows? Maybe the NSA is running the Tor network, most of it. But we can notice that some of the Bitcoin Core nodes are also Tor nodes. And we can just stay inside the Tor network with this and broadcast our transactions to them. And this is how Wasabi wallet is broadcasting your transactions. It's as private as it gets today. We have better ways to do this in theory, like Dandelion, or the presentation before me was actually talking about a mesh network, which you may use or think about this kind of things. I think there is a lot to improve, but it's pretty private. I don't think anyone could be de-anonymized by this thing. And this is about transaction broadcasting. So you have no idea that you gain this much privacy when you're using Wasabi. Now, let's get back to our initial transaction. And notice that, we control 2 addresses there, and there is another address. But we only care about 2 addresses because that's where we can spend money from. Do you guys remember what were the values there? No, I don't remember either. We should figure it out somehow. Maybe in a private way. So we have our 2 addresses. We want to know how much money we have on those addresses, but without connecting the link, without exposing the link to any third party between our 2 addresses, or as our Bitcoin wallet has hundreds of thousands of addresses. So one private way to do it is that, what if we are the full nodes ourselves? We download all the transactions and we know our balances on our addresses. You can do this with Wasabi too, but Wasabi is also a light wallet, so let's think about how we can, okay, first how others are doing this, how other light wallets are doing this. There is a special Bitcoin full node that's called the Centra server. It's never called the server when I'm in Bitcoin world. It's always called the Centra server. Anyway, that's funny. So we ask the Centra server, and it tells us our balances. But we ask the Centra server how much money we have on our addresses, so he's gonna know the link. Now, this is how most light wallet works. There are some other schemes, but not much better. What Wasabi does is we have again, yes, if they are spying on you, then that's a problem. We have again the Centra server. The Centra server has all the blocks, the whole blockchain. And what if this Centra server creates some digest, some filters from these blocks? It's called block filters. And these block filters are given to the clients. And these are constant block filters. So the Centra server always gives the exact same data to every client. So the Centra server cannot know anything because it serves the same thing to everyone. Okay, what are these block filters? What can we do with it? So from these block filters, we can actually figure out which blocks we need. we need 1, 3, and 7. Block 1, block 3, block 7. And we can ask the Bitcoin core, Bitcoin full nodes to give us these blocks. We ask one node, one block, and over Tor network, over new Tor circuit. So not even these nodes learn like anything, which is pretty amazing, and it was a very hard problem before the LND guys came up with BIP 157, BIP 158. And if we have the blocks, from those we can calculate our balances. These are features, those are in Wasabi, and you don't know you're using this. So I think this is very important. Coin joins are cool, but you cannot go without network level privacy. Thank you.